We got Paul and Colette in the waiting room back here. So we have Shareil on, and we got Colette and Paul coming on now. Really, I'll set the stage in a second, but let's do intros now that everybody's on here. First, so I'm Daniel, the CEO of Arrows. If you all have been watching, I've been around all day, but I'm going to be in the back end running the show here. But first, we've got Paul Weston, GM of Service Hub, and we got Colette King, who runs product for all the customer success tools in Service Hub that have just been launching. She's going to show you some of that. And we've got Shareil Nariman, who runs customer experience at Arrows and basically works with all of our customers to make sure they're successful and is a great user of HubSpot himself. So yeah, either way, welcome, Paul and Colette and Shareil. I guess this is your first time. You've been in the backstage all day, but welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So what are we talking about? So basically, every business these days cares about net revenue retention, cares about servicing their customers, cares about marketing and selling to their existing customers. Like, it's way easier to have expansion revenue with your existing customers, but you also want to make happy customers. Anybody who was here talking to Yamini, she was like, you had me at happy customers. That's it. Now, happy customers are successful customers. That's something important. Like, it's not just happy customers. They have to be successful as well. But really what the perspective here of this event is, it's way easier to service customers and support them and make them successful in the same tool that you're running marketing and sales out of. Now, Paul and Colette, you're nodding your heads. I think you have some thoughts here. Like, you all just launched. Paul, you've been running Service Hub for a couple of years now. You've been on that team for a while. Colette, you just joined Service Hub last year, but you launched your success tooling. Why? Like, why is this in HubSpot? Or why are we now supporting our customers in this way in HubSpot?
It's really simple. So we set off a couple of years back. We took a step back, really. We started to interview a bunch of CX leaders, and we asked them, how do you measure success? And the answer was pretty clear and repetitive. It was customer retention and net dollar retention or net revenue retention. And you very rarely heard like tickets closed. So what we want to do is we really want to lean into two key use cases in Service Hub. It's scaling support. Yes, we definitely need to scale support. We're going to lean into AI, all the cool, modern, new stuff. We're doing all that. It's going to be awesome. But to finish the flywheel, really, you've got to have that perspective of customer success. And we have to lean into customer retention and customer growth. And so we've got these well-known tools for Marketing Hub. You attract visitors, you create leads. You've got these well-known tools for Sales Hub. You create and close deals. You've got the prospecting workspace. But then what happens? Nothing until a customer issue occurs, right? And so here's where the customer success workspace comes in to really help with that handoff. That's where Arrows comes in across Sales and Service Hub. So that's really reducing that friction in the flywheel, creating that force in the flywheel is really why we went down this path. Colette, anything to add there?
No, I think you covered it pretty well.
Shareil, what about you?
I echo a lot of that being in this world. And I think the theme I've heard from everyone speaking today is all these tools working well together. The end result should be that better customer experience. And we are as guilty as anyone of having challenges in the CRM and fields maybe not being filled out properly or notes not being handed off correctly. And our whole thing is customers shouldn't have to ever feel that pain. They should know what's expected of them, what's next, and all these tools automating all that and communicating back to HubSpot should then in turn make everyone else who's involved in that life cycle, whether customer facing or behind the scenes, also informed and in tune. And if you do those two things, that is the recipe for keeping customers happy, but ultimately keeping them retained and growing revenue and sticking around longer, which is what we're all here for.
Yeah. So with that, Shareil, let's dive into the sales handoff. We had closed the deal with PandaDoc. We have call notes with Grain inside Sales Hub. What do we do now? Take it away.
Yeah.
And we'll hand it off to Colette and Paul to show us some of the new Service Hub stuff just after.
Okay. Let me share my screen and get a few things shown here. Okay, the first step of a live demo, it loaded. We're good. So if you can see a deal pipeline, you are all likely very familiar with what's going on here. But what I want to talk about is how HubSpot predominantly and using things like Arrows talking to HubSpot can really streamline this entire session. So again, both that customer facing experience and, as importantly, your internal teams are all in the know and aware. So we have a deal. It hits closed won here. I'm going to jump into this Acme Industries deal that Scott was just showing. They signed their agreement and it is closed won. So a couple of things happen when your sales reps fill out information in here, or it's passed over from tools like Agrain or AirCall or other things. The HubSpot workflow and automation system can really kick in and leverage some of this stuff. So in this example, what I'm saying is when a deal is closed won and handoff notes are present and the sales rep has identified what tier the customer is buying, kick off a little workflow in HubSpot. And essentially what we're doing now is creating a onboarding record. So this is part of that handoff piece where a big way to gain efficiencies and streamline it is to automate things. One, for the obvious, not needing to do the manual work. But I think as importantly in that is also quality assurance to make sure that everything is handed off to the right person and in real time. So what this workflow is looking for is deals hitting a closed won stage where the sales rep has identified what that ultimate product they're purchasing is or tier they're purchasing is, and then going into a branch and starting to create those onboarding records. Now, in this example, what I'm using is Service Hub and tickets to manage that onboarding record off of. This is the piece that Arrows, the product and the plan attaches to. So Arrows is that customer-facing extension of the process. Put tasks in there, have customers complete them. And as that happens, a ton of activity and usage data is passed back into HubSpot. What needs to happen, though, is the onboarding manager or rep needs to be aware of some of that information that was on the sales deal. We are all used to slacking sales reps and asking questions, and that is a waste of time, essentially. So use HubSpot to pass that information from the deal to the onboarding record. And what happens when these workflows run, I also have an if-then branch to make sure that the right tier is getting the right assignee internally, getting the right information passed over. But things like that pricing tier, things like the deal amount, the Panda doc contract, and the handoff notes are now being passed over and added to a record created in our onboarding pipeline. So this is an example of where they start. These stages or these statuses in this ticket pipeline are going to be matching that customer facing plan that I'll show you in a second. And then there's a ton of automations that can actually move these through these stages as customers complete their tasks. So what happens now is a second workflow kicks in. We know there's an onboarding record that exists, but again, we want to make it easier for our onboarding teams and our customer success teams to actually then use this information and engage with customers. So we get into a second workflow here. Let me zoom out a bit. Where now what we're looking for is that ticket or that record ready for onboarding? Again, another layer of is the pricing tier known? I try to keep this a little bit on the more basic side. You can obviously add as many branches and functionality from HubSpot's workflows that you're used to. But again, another branch now saying, all right, if they are a starter customer, create and attach an Arrows onboarding plan automatically to that record so that the customer rep, again, doesn't have to spend time doing some of this manual work. And you can set these up in a way where it's picking and choosing your right template from the Arrows side. It's adding contacts that are already on that ticket that were passed over from that deal. And you can even automatically send an invite to that customer, letting them know, here's an example of your plan. Get in here and get going. So all that is done in these workflows, and that saves so much time and so much room for error that's avoided when handing off information between teams. And then the other thing I'm highlighting in here is you can actually send a plethora of different notifications using just HubSpot's native features. So depending on the customer type or the onboarding type, what I want to do in this case is send a Slack notification. In this case, send just a HubSpot task or send a high-level, high-priority email to a customer or to an internal rep if it's an enterprise account. And what's really special about this is you can then, again, leverage data that's already in HubSpot from those personalization tokens. So those handoff notes are here now. They're being passed to the onboarding record. You're avoiding all that manual back and forth that neither side really likes. And when that's going on, that means the customer is not getting the service that they signed up for and were promised. And most importantly, if that's not the case, you are now creating churn risk. Because if that customer's, as Yamini pointed out, as others mentioned today, if that customer is not seeing value, especially very early in the process, they are more propense to churn and in turn lose all that marketing and sales money you just spent acquiring them. So these notifications are intended to make sure everyone is aware there's a customer ready. Let's get going with them. Now, what does this actually look like? So here is that onboarding record that gets created. I have an onboarding section in here. This is the ticket. This is the Arrows and HubSpot CRM card, where information as customers are going through their plans actually updates in real time. So now as the rep managing this onboarding, I can have a very quick overview and understanding of where the customer is. My sales team, in theory, should never have to ask me where a customer is. They can go to that ticket pipeline because things are automated and moving through there. If they want to go a layer deeper, they can open this. And this onboarding section highlights everything I need to know or care about in this very moment. So I know who the customer is. I see my handoff notes. I see my contract. Now this part down here is actually talking to Arrows, the plan. So if I open this plan here, this is a customer facing version of an Arrows plan. The idea is customers receive this. There's a set of tasks. They mark their way through these and complete tasks. And this world can be fully automated and set up dynamically to understand which tasks need to be presented to a customer. As long as all that information lives inside of HubSpot on that record, it can automatically show certain phases, certain tasks, making sure the customer is actually seeing what they need to see. One power or one type of feature that gets commonly used in any process, but especially early life cycle moments, is collecting information from customers, forms. These forms are also actually talking in real time to these properties. As a customer updates these forms, this is all going to get updated. Here's the live part of the demo where we're going to try this together. So let's say there are 200 people on this team and everyone is remote. I'm going to hit submit here on the customer side. You'll see notifications here. That's done. The task gets marked automatically complete. This stage that the customer was in right now just got completed. And so a number of things happen. If I jump back into my ticket here and refresh, if all went to plan, now I will see those answers directly in this section here. So I can quickly know that, okay, this is the team size. This team actually is remote. That helps me go on with my onboarding process and set them up for success. And as importantly here, if that information is missing, now my human, valuable, expensive time can be used in a far more targeted way with this customer. So I can actually reach out and say, hey, Alex, looks like I'm still missing your team size. Or better yet, I can just grab the link to that task and send him directly to that task and have him fill it out. But it's being far more pointed with my human time. And it makes that customer feel valued and known because they actually also feel that I know where they are in their process.
And Shareil, even Allison in the chat even asked, we've seen this with our customers. If you've collected data in pre-sales, those form inputs, if you connect them to a HubSpot property, will show the value. And so you can essentially verify it, including the handoff notes or what are your goals that we might have asked you when closing the deal. We can prompt you with that and say, are these still true? Is this correct?
Yeah, 100%. Someone mentioned in the earlier, I think it was Molly that mentioned in the earlier session too, confirming is far more powerful than asking the same question again. So you can say, I heard this, I saw this, is this still true? But again, that adds a layer of value that the customer then feels, which makes them more inclined to come back and keep going. The other thing that happened here is when I completed that task, you'll notice this phase went to complete. And if I jump back to that onboarding pipeline here, that just happened in real time. So you saw that move from there to this integration setup. And that is an Arrows pipeline automation that's essentially writing directly to the ticket status or the deal stage. And again, the team now knows where this customer is in the process. They can jump in here and quickly take action if needed. And everyone internally should have a good sense of where that customer is in the process. Now, the other advantage of this type of setup is Arrows itself is also passing around 50 data points about this activity on the plan back into HubSpot. So as a manager, you can always jump into your manager view and see all of those individual data points. But things like what is the status of this plan? What task is the customer on? How many days have they been on a specific task or phase? And these are just properties now on the HubSpot side, which lets you do some really fun stuff like build high-level reporting based off of that activity, like trigger more automations and workflows, set up different pipeline views and lists views to really pool customers or to really keep customers making progress, while your team and as a leader in success, you can also get an overview of everything. So here's a couple examples of I just care about customers that have an onboarding plan, that have overdue tasks on them, and I want to know which specific task they are on and for how long. Now I can filter down and zoom in on accounts that need my attention and need my time and allow those that are just progressing naturally to keep doing their thing. Or maybe I want to focus on just customers that have a target date in the next 30 days. So the power of this becomes taking that data and then manipulating it however you want using HubSpot's filters and workflows and automations to actually then give everybody in your internal organization visibility into that process. And you can do all sorts of fun stuff with this then, because you can do, again, things like workflows. So I have triggers set up for when a customer is on a specific task and that specific task has been overdue for X number of days, send me a Slack notification filled with personalization tokens showing me all that. Or when customers on our actual Arrows plans answer specific questions in their forms, things like, are you using a specific object? Or what does your onboarding process look like? I actually channel those directly into a voice of customer channel in HubSpot or in Arrows or Slack, using that HubSpot workflow to capture that and pass it over. So it's all about how do I reduce human time and effort used on these tasks while actually making it a better customer experience and keeping everyone informed. And then if I quickly jump to a more filled out pipeline, you can see here, this is highly customized, but there are now data points from Arrows pulling into these individual cards. I have tags for specific milestones that I want to care about. And what this ultimately lets me do as a human is not necessarily replace me or get rid of my job. It actually makes me far more effective and more efficient, because I can now pick and choose where I'm spending time, which customers need more of my attention versus which ones are up and running and going on their own. And then the part I love most is customers making progress and being successful. But the part I love second most is being able to then also give feedback to sales and marketing and success on why customers are stuck where they are. So if I notice 10 plans get sent out, 9 people are stuck on the same task, that's a bad task. Let me go figure out how to fix that part of my plan or process versus trying to overhaul everything. And enough of those little moments of garnering feedback and sharing it with the right department is ultimately how you make that experience more and more seamless and streamlined, which in turn keeps customers moving, reduces churn, and hopefully keeps revenue growing in your business.
You hit on two things that like really stand out to me, and I know we hear a lot, all of us at Arrows. Like, one, it's the automation bit, and this kind of taps into the AI stuff that Yamini was talking about. Like, the best version of automation AI doesn't remove humans. It actually allows us to do what humans are uniquely good at. Like, updating call notes and filling out MedPick is not what humans are uniquely good at, or else it wouldn't be a pain for all of us. But same with moving the card through the pipeline. But it does allow you now to go target and spend your energy helping a customer be more specific, more successful in the way that is specific and unique to them and their situation. And the other thing you hit on earlier is that we're spending all this money. In the last 2 sessions, we talked about acquiring customers and closing customers. We're spending all this money to acquire them. And if we don't onboard them and make them successful using Arrows and Service Hub, like, we're just wasted dollars. And so there's a lot there that we usually, when people are buying Arrows, it's either because they're trying to scale their team more effectively or that like early churn problem. We're just like spending dollars that gets totally burnt when customers churn. So
let me give Arrows some kudos here, because the seamlessness and the nativeness of the integration is really top notch. Between the sidebar card, the automation, the properties, and the reporting, it all just comes together so flawlessly. So often you see these integrations that don't quite feel like they're part of the same ecosystem. That's not the case at all here. It's natively integrated throughout the experience. So big kudos to the Arrows team here.
A big part of that too is making it a better internal tool too. You want your teams to use it and meet them where they're at. So whether you're working directly in Arrows or you're working in HubSpot or you're doing a combination of those two, you should look and feel like it's the same experience to you. And I didn't even show this, but you can iframe the entire plan directly into that record when you're on that ticket or deal or custom object. And now you can just work actually in HubSpot, but on a live customer facing plan.
Absolutely. And I think, Paul, Colette, we've talked about this a lot, but what you're about to show, Colette, there's the new Success Workspace and then health scoring. Those are only as good as the data and the functionality and the workflows that you have that meet the customer in those spaces. When you show that, if we wanted to have an overdue task or incomplete onboarding process inform the health score, we can do that because the Arrows data is in there. Or we have ideas, of course, of how to make this further more deeply embedded, but there's pipelines. I want my onboarding pipeline inside the workspace, and then I want to see the Arrows plan there. With that, Shareil, do you have anything else that you want to touch on, or do we want to hand it off to?
The last piece I'll add to that is, with all that information now living in HubSpot, that's where what Colette is about to show and or Paul are about to get into becomes extra valuable, because now you're tying real-time customer engagement and data back into something like a health score in Service Hub that now really gives you a pulse on where are these customers in the process, how are they behaving, how are they acting, and how healthy actually are they towards that growth that we're all after.
Putting the customer back in CRM.
Yeah, there we go. That's a great line. There we go. So Lisa's asking in the chat, and this will set you up, Colette, can all this data be collected on a company level? So for arrows and processes like onboarding, we see an object that's tied to a pipeline, like a custom object, a ticket object deal. That's ideal for running a process like that, where there's a start and end. But Colette, talk about company objects and what we can do with those. Oh, I think you're muted still if you want to come back off.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. Take it away.
Yeah, hi everyone. I am Colette King. I am the product lead in Service Hub, who is working on building out all of the functionality for customer success teams, which we are very excited to show you guys today. I know we just talked a bunch about onboarding, and onboarding customers effectively is a absolutely critical moment in the customer journey. It's a make or break factor in the customer experience, but it's not the only factor. Customers can hit roadblocks or find unexpected value throughout the life cycle as a customer. And it's a customer success team's job to help the customer course correct or amplify the successes that they're already seeing. However, with larger books of businesses, CSMs often struggle to know which accounts actually need their attention, which is why I am super excited to be demoing health scores and the CS Workspace today. So health scores are a key tool that CSMs can use to track customers throughout their life cycle. And now CS teams can create those health scores on the company record in HubSpot, powered by all the data that they've already pulled into their CRM. So to start, I just want to introduce everyone to the Customer Success Workspace, which is currently in public beta if you haven't seen it already. The Customer Success Workspace centralizes information in HubSpot to help CS teams manage their book of business. So anyone with a Service Hub Pro or Enterprise seat can get access to a personalized Customer Success Workspace designed to help them manage their book of business by bringing their calendar, reports, tasks, CRM information, pipelines. You've got deal pipelines, you've got ticket pipelines, you can see support, you can see onboarding. All of this is right in one place to hopefully make their jobs easier in terms of managing their book of business. This is a super exciting first step for HubSpot, but the health scores that I'm going to demo are going to level up the CS Workspace and really move the needle on running proactive customer success out of HubSpot. So my quick caveat before I show the health scores is that they are currently in private beta. Paul is going to do me a favor and link the waitlist in the chat. We are hoping to have the public beta where anyone with a Service Hub seat can opt in late July. The waitlist that we're dropping in the chat is going to be used to select customers during our private beta, which is happening right now. So just to set expectations, we might not be able to accept everyone during the private beta, but if you don't get access now, you will be able to join the public beta in late July. But if you want to get early access or get on the waitlist for it, please fill out the form that Paul is putting in the chat. All right.
You still have to get everybody excited though, so this is great.
Exactly. So anyone with a Customer Success Workspace permission, this is the permission that allows you to add reports in the workspace or create shared views in the workspace, are going to be able to create and edit health scores. These health scores leverage your existing data from HubSpot, and they work with all of your favorite platform features such as lists, reporting, and automation. And so I've actually already set up a health score ahead of this demo, but I'm going to walk you through each of the steps. So to start, the first thing that you're going to do is use lists to identify which companies are actually customers who should be scored instead of maybe prospects or churned accounts. So you'll see here, I've got a number of lists set up, although I'm actually going to leave it as scoring all companies today for the demo. Then within the health score builder, customers can include basically any data that's already in HubSpot. So you can score company properties, you can score associated contact properties, deal properties, ticket properties, and coming very soon are associated custom object properties. You're also going to be able to score events such as phone calls, like air call or webinar registrations. And these can be HubSpot events. They can also be events created by integrations or custom events that you've created yourself. So if you are syncing product usage data into HubSpot through a custom integration or a custom event, that would be eligible to be included in the health score here. And if you're wondering what the difference between a property and an event is, in general, we use properties to store information that can change, like a job title or an email address, while we use an event to record things that don't change. So a good example is if you delete an email after you've opened it, you always opened that email, and that email open will be stored as an event, even though you later went on and deleted the email. Ahead of this call, I actually went ahead and modified the existing score template. There is a template that every customer is going to see when they go to build a score for the first time. The template is designed to give you a sense of what's possible, but the score is 100% customizable, and you can just delete any section you don't like with this little trash can icon up here. You're also going to see that you can organize your groups into either groups of properties or into groups of events. So each group has a max number of points that those properties or events can contribute to the overall score. And this helps to control the weighting of each section and prevents one section from overrunning the entire score. You have 100 points to distribute across all of the groups, as scores can only range from 0 to 100. You can also both add and subtract points to make the score go up and down. And I actually recommend making sure that you have events that do both, so adding points and subtracting points, or your score is going to get stuck moving in only one direction. For any associated objects or events, so anything that is not the company record, you can manage which objects or events are being scored with association labels, and then you can also decide how you want those points from those objects to be included in the score. Last thing I'm going to call out is a new default property that we've introduced on the company record called CSM Sentiment. Right now, there are 3 options in CSM Sentiment, and it basically just allows your CS team to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down about how they feel about an account on a given basis. So last thing I'm going to do before turning on my score is adjust my ranges. I actually want to create a higher threshold for what I'm going to count as healthy. So I'm going to set that to 80, but you can really decide whatever numbers work best for your company, at what point a company record would move from neutral to healthy or neutral to at risk. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click save, update. And now you're going to see that I have 2 new company properties that have been created, and we can go take a look at those in a second. All of the companies who are eligible are going to be scored immediately as soon as you turn on the health score. And if I come back and make any changes to the score profile, those company scores are going to get updated as well. All right, so if we go back to the customer success workspace, go into the portfolio page, you're going to see that I have 2 new company properties here, health status and health score. I've also created a custom view in this to see all of the health scores, and then I've also created a custom view for at-risk customers specifically. Since both of these views are shared views, they're actually going to show up for anybody in my HubSpot account who is using the CS workspace, so everybody gets this view out of the box now that I've created it. You can also pin these properties on the left-hand company sidebar, so you can see those right here, so a CSM has easy access to them on an individual company record. So because these are normal company properties, you're able to use them you can use both properties in workflows, reporting, and automation. So now that I have my health score and I'm pretty happy with it, I'm going to go ahead and create a few new workflows. The first workflow that I created reminds CSMs to update the CSM sentiment property every month with their assessment of the account by sending them an internal notification if the property hasn't been updated in the past 30 days. I've also created a workflow to alert managers if the property hasn't been updated in 60 days. This is a really good check-in opportunity to make sure that the CSM is engaging with the customers the way that we'd like them to, because if they are, they should have a sense of how this account is doing on at least maybe a monthly basis. The third workflow that I've created actually sends another notification to both the manager and a CSM if the health status changes from neutral to at risk. Right now, I have this alert set up to trigger for any customers, but I can also limit it to only triggering for certain accounts above a revenue threshold if I'm worried about potential noise and I want to keep my team super, super focused. Finally, I've created a list using health scores as well. This is a list of customers with a health score greater than 90, and marketing teams can use this to ask customers for case studies, or sales can ask them to serve as a reference customer. Now I'm going to go back to workflows, and I'm going to create a workflow that's set up to email the marketing team anytime a new customer is added to the list. If I wanted to, I could also set it up to alert them when someone is removed from the list as well. Everything I just showed is available with the health score builder that is currently in private beta, coming to public beta in late July. However, the engineering team is already working on additional functionality that we're hoping to make available in beta before the end of the summer. We know that as wonderful as all the automation and alerting I just showed are, that health scores actually need to mean something to CSMs for them to take action on it. We're working on visualizations, highlighting the health score, what are the inputs to the health score, and most importantly, showing how the health score has changed over time. So what I'm about to show you are mock-ups of what we expect it to look like. And we typically do not show these on public webinars like this, but I wanted to give
This is
everyone
special. I don't think people
100%.
realize how special this is.
Sneak peek, special access.
Like
I
you haven't,
share with Paul to do this.
Paul, it's good. Yeah. Okay. This is very exciting. We've seen this and we're pretty excited about what this is going to change for success in HubSpot.
Yeah. So my only ask is that you remember that this is not yet available. We are tentatively planning for a beta, like I said, this summer. And just please remember that these are mocks. It's tentative. It is not a guarantee or a promise of future functionality. So here we go. The first thing that you're going to notice is that there's going to be a new summary card in the CS workspace showing the number of at-risk companies within a CSM's book of business. If you click over to the portfolio tab, you're going to see that the health status and health score are highlighted, making it easier for CSMs to understand the account at a glance. We are also going to be creating a new CRM card that shows health score, health status, the direction of the most recent change, along with the degree of the most recent change, and the 3 most recent activities and reasons that the score changed. We are also introducing a chart that shows the score trend over time. And this is going to go back much further than the existing 20 value property history limit that we have for most properties today. We will also show an event history table showing each change, the value of the change, the event that caused the change, the date that it happened, and the score as a result of the change. So I don't know about you, but I am very excited to get everyone starting to use these new features and running customer success out of HubSpot a lot more effectively. And if you are interested in anything that you saw today, please sign up for the waitlist at the link in the chat.
I pinned Paul's, if you all look at the pinned comment, that's where the link is. So if anybody wants to request early access, go there. Are you all seeing the loves? People are, the little hearts floating. People are loving the health score visualization. It's very cool. I think it feels like a dramatic change in HubSpot, at least for me as a few-year user now. But how does it feel to you all to be rolling this stuff out?
Just think about how much better your marketing and sales gets because of these properties as well. Imagine list segmentation, automation, custom reports built up based off of these properties as well. So I'm super excited selfishly for Service Hub, but I think the entire platform gets better because of this functionality as well.
Yeah, like we talked about this before in the marketing session, sales session, like you're marketing to existing customers as much as you are marketing to new leads. You're selling to existing customers, your AEs are reaching out for renewal, for expansion opportunities. Knowing the state of that customer is critical to doing that effectively and having it be visual, but also a property that we had a renewal conversation the other day, and it would have been great to have that sort of information prompting us before going into that call. We had to dig a bit too much to actually go see all that. And we're thrilled. And especially how, like we are as an app partner, and I know all the folks on sales session, how our activities that we're generating get to feed into those is super powerful.
Can we do some rapid fire, like just recap of some of the questions in the...
It's hard because they're going so quick.
They're going pretty fast. So Colette, I'm going to try to give you like a lightning round here. What if you already have a property where you're like approximating a health score? How are you thinking about managing the two of those, custom property, health score versus this new standard property? Any thoughts or advice there?
Yeah, so I think to start, one thing that you could do is you could just start very simply by making that property the primary property for the health score when this rolls out. That will allow you to take advantage of the visualization features and that health score trend over time, while you maybe think about how you want to build the score with the new score builder that we have. So you can totally use that custom property as an input. The second thing I would say is, in general, based off of all of our conversations with customers, it is going to make sense to migrate to this tool in the long run. The health score builder that we have is a much more powerful scoring feature based off of anything else that HubSpot has released, any other kind of scoring system that we have. This is a new scoring system that we are introducing, and we are really excited about it, and it's going to be an area that we're investing. So if you want to get some stuff out of the box, I'd start by using that custom property as the sole input for your health score, but it's probably worth starting to move to this over time.
Great. Okay. Next question.
Let me just jump in there for a sec, because I can definitely vouch for that. Having gone through this with Colette and having her help set up our health score in our HubSpot, we had properties that were already calculating at risk and active and stuff like that. And they worked, but they didn't fit exactly into there. So with Colette's advice, we basically took the components that were calculating those properties and put those into the health score, which then gives you far more flexibility too of the subtracting and addition versus like before I was having workflows set that property based on other triggers and activity. And this is just so much more easy.
I think that's a pretty common setup, actually. Without this standard functionality, a lot of people are using workflows to try to approximate for sure. Colette, next question for you. Can you have more than 3 statuses for health scores or 3 labels for health scores? Are you considering increasing that in the future, to be determined?
Yeah, I think it's to be determined. For now, we're probably going to keep it at 3, but I do see reasons why we could increase that in the future. It just depends on where it falls in the prioritization list.
Got it. And next question here came up a couple different times in different ways, but will you be able to have different health scores for different pipelines, perhaps different health scores for different regions, different types of customers?
Onboarding versus active customer.
Totally. Onboarding versus active customer, I think, is like one of the biggest use cases that I want to see people adopt multiple health scores for. The short answer is yes. We will absolutely be allowing more multiple health scores for everybody. The long answer is we are starting with 1. The reason for that is that we want to make sure that the health score builder works. It does what we expect it to do. It does what customers expect it to do, because this is a new scoring system that we're rolling out. And we want to make sure that we don't produce a ton of messy data within your CRM. So once we are confident in this and we get a little bit closer to GA, you'll be seeing more options for multiple health score profiles.
Great. Brian asked the question about handling multiple locations. What if you want to know if one location is healthy versus another? The thing that immediately popped to mind for me was just using custom reporting, because these are going to be new standard properties on the company object. So you'll be able to pull reports and filter reports by any property you want. So you could pull a report that shows customer health scores by region.
Yep.
Another question that came up was cost. How much does this cost? It's just part of the Service Hub Pro and Enterprise seats. So anyone with a Service Hub Pro or Enterprise seat will have all of this functionality, the workspace, all of the health scores, et cetera. I think
And when they do that, they get all the help desk and everything else. So it's not like you're buying, you get the whole package in here. And
thank you for that. Yes, that is absolutely correct. It's the entire CX experience, the entire post-sales experience in those seats combined.
And also your first time. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, Paul, you hit on it at the very beginning, but this is a new public direction. You all have been planning this for a while, a new public direction for Service Hub, that it is everything about servicing your customer and making them successful after the sale's done in one space. So it's one paid seat for allowing both those things, which is really cool.
Certainly. I think we're caught up on questions.
The one thing I was going to add to some of these questions is, especially if it's the first attempt at a health score, don't overcomplicate it, because then it becomes really hard to actually use and apply. And I'm very guilty of this myself. I want every metric in there and every number in there, and but it becomes so hard to make sense of and actually apply and use. Whereas if you start a little bit more simply, you can actually put it into action and make use of that data and then build on it if needed. But that first iteration, don't try to put every single input from every single object into it, because it's going to be overwhelming. No one's going to use it. You're not going to make any sense of it. And then managing that is also a nightmare.
Yeah, and I'd love to jump off there into a topic there for you, Colette. You've done a lot of research with teams who have built existing health scores in other systems as part of building this tool out. What else were you seeing in terms of how people were using them successfully, how they were constructing them? Any best practices you can share?
I think the biggest thing is that you need to decide what your health score is used for. Is it something that you expect your CS team to use to prioritize your accounts, look at the changes in the health score and things that cause the health score to change to make decisions about how they reach out to an account or how they handle a certain situation with an account? Or is the health score a reporting tool for your C-suite and your leadership team? And is it maybe more of an ops metric? And the reason that I think that it's not that they can't do both, but it should have a primary role. The reason for that is when teams build more for ops and leadership, they tend to get a little bit more complicated with the score. They might add more inputs than a CSM cares about, and it maybe starts to get a little bit noisier. At the macro level across the entire customer base, those really complex health scores work super well. But for individual CSMs who need to take action within their book of business, it can get a little bit noisy. And if you want them to actually take action on it, they need to understand the health score, why it is calculated the way that it is, and it needs to, like I said, actually mean something to the CSM. So pick your primary goal and then build for that.
I could see you're hitting on something interesting in there. As a lot of teams who aren't yet running success or health scores out of HubSpot, because historically it wasn't as, you might actually just want to get the basic pro feat, like pro level, start scoring your accounts even before your team might ever be in there. because you might be doing it just for your own internal metrics to report on, and you might not actually yet have your success team running day-to-day workflows out of there. So that's an interesting like kind of gradual evolution into how people might run success in HubSpot.
Yeah, I'd also throw one more thing in here, which is my advice would be to really map out what your customers care about. Start with your customer outcomes. So some of the best advice that I think we've gotten when we've interviewed CX leaders is what's the job of the CSM? The job of the CSM is to show value for the customer. What does value for the customer mean? It differs by what does ROI mean for each customer? What does ROI mean for segments of customers really is I think the best way to think about it in the context of our health scores. So start from the end, work your way backwards and think about the customer outcomes that they want, and the rest will fall into place.
Yeah, and that kind of gets into one of the questions in the chat is what product data to bring into HubSpot, and both for informing health scores, but also just for other workflows. And I think you're probably right, Paul. It is arrows. We bring some in, and it's really about what are the core things that you need a customer to do, what drives value for them, what shows successful versus unsuccessful usage, and that's where we started. We do not put every activity into HubSpot yet. That is something that might be useful someday, but it's start small and expand from there. Okay, I think, Colette, we met in the fall and maybe last summer even, and it was like, we're building success stuff in HubSpot. And here we are, not even 12 months later, and you all have launched a lot of really cool things. Frankly, we weren't expecting at Arrows you all to make this much progress very quickly. But is there anything you all want to allude to? Like, how are you thinking about what's next with Service Hub? Is there anything that you don't need to get into specifics, but how are you thinking about how this product continues to evolve? Because I think we've seen even just in the last month or so since this launch, there's definitely a lot more interest in running. It was latent interest that's now coming to the surface. Like people want to run this stuff in HubSpot.
Yep, 100%. So I think the very first thing, we were seeing 2024 as our foundation building year. It was the first time we're going to be launching into this space. I'd say that the second half of the year is going to be really focused on getting revenue and purchase data into HubSpot in a really structured way so that you can track the things that the customer has actually purchased and start to answer the questions around what have they purchased? What products have they purchased from me that are currently active? When are contracts up? Where is a contract potentially in the life cycle if there is something like service delivery that we are representing? Getting better about tracking monthly payments. How much money has a customer paid to you versus how much money is outstanding to be paid to you, so that you can start to get really good MRR and ARR tracking. This is not coming in 2024, but at some point I would love to see CS-led forecasting happening in HubSpot, making predictions about what your revenue will look like on a given month in combination with sales and CS data when you're taking into account churn predictions, and then the value of the account that is actually churning, and doing all of this with default HubSpot properties, default HubSpot experiences that are obviously customizable to every business, but that don't require tons and tons of custom properties and custom workflows to get all this stuff done. So second half of the year is really focused on revenue and purchase data inside of HubSpot. And then also in 2025, and maybe even a little bit at the end of 2024, if we can move really quickly, you're going to start to see a lot more from us around AI, starting to dip our toes into that water. And that is my other plug about running CS on HubSpot is any AI that you build for your business will only be as good as the data that you have. And if you can leverage all of the data from one place, it will be significantly more powerful and significantly more accurate rather than being stuck and siloed in different systems.
Yeah, I was gonna touch on that too. I think for us, I mentioned this when talking to Yamini, like I ran internal tools at Twilio, and it was to have different systems with different sources of truth and keeping them in sync was a nightmare. And we all know that. So even with the like kind of early stage that this success tooling is in HubSpot, just by the nature of it being new, it's still, for me, much more valuable to have all of our teams in one place looking at one unified view of the customer and one unified stack. I think that's just really exciting. So with that, are you all seeing any common, of course, I think everybody here who's considering success in HubSpot should be buying arrows alongside it. But outside of that, what's the common stack? Are you seeing tools or kind of types of tools people should be considering and evaluating?
I think it really differs by the company, but we're big fans of AirCall. Previously on this docket here, we've got some really great first-party calling features, but we're huge fans of AirCall. I think that they've got a whole lot of flexibility building into the 100% that we just won't. So like AirCall is a very common part of the tech stack. I think that Arrows is a core part of the tech stack. And then we just recently also shipped an essential apps category in the app marketplace for HubSpot for Service Hub. So you can see like our top 10 lists of who we recommend. Of course, Arrows is there. Of course, Aircall is there. But we've got some other favorites as well. Some messaging channels that are really great for help desk context.
Yeah, Cervicate, some of the survey tools, I think they're in there. A few others like that. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, a lot of the reporting and I think surveys is probably a core part of Service Hub, I imagine. Paul, Shareil, anything that comes to mind for you around maybe proactive success? Anything else that you want to highlight in Service Hub or Arrows?
No, for me, it's just super exciting to think everything that Colette said. Colette just basically gave the roadmap for customer success, showed off some sneak peeks of what we're going for here. We are just getting started. That's like the most exciting thing for me is these are the early days. So all the feedback in the world is super helpful for us. So if you've got any feedback, let us know. But truly connecting reactive support and the proactive account management or customer success in one platform, it's a differentiated product that I'm super excited about, and I can't wait to see it just continue to grow.
Yeah, think about that. Oh, go ahead, Shareil.
No, I would echo all that and just add to this whole session has shared a lot. We've shown a lot of integrations. We've shown a lot of powerful tools. We've shown a lot of setup that at first glance might also feel overwhelming, or you might feel like we don't have the teams or the structure to support all this. None of us did either. We all started somewhere and started building that step by step. So if anything, be encouraged to take some of these lessons and go try some of them and learn from them, because that is ultimately how you build process and build structure and build repeatable scale, which is ultimately what our teams are after. And when done well, that's how you see those customer experiences improve.
Yeah, totally. And I think, Paul, just to build on what you said, you want to adopt the tools that are heading in the right direction. It's the slope of where it's heading. And I think you're right that HubSpot as a platform, but specifically these tools in Service Hub are heading in the right direction. And for us as an app, we bet our business as an app on the platform in a lot of ways, but also as a company, we've bet our usage of having marketing, sales, success all on one platform. And there's nothing that's made us question that. This was great. We're just going to wrap early. We did a lot in, God, what's the running time here? 3 hours and 20 minutes. So we covered a lot. Marketing, sales, success, all in one platform. A lot of great apps showing you what's possible when you can run the customer journey in one place. Tools that push data and workflows back into HubSpot so your other teams and other tools can actually rely on that data and build off of it. We got to see Figma mock-ups of health score stuff that's hopefully coming sooner than later because we're all eager to see that. The hearts were going wild during that. I think that was a first for me in a live setting, definitely seeing HubSpot show stuff so early. And we got to hear from Yamini talk about happy customers. That was a really fun session. Thank you, everybody, for joining the inaugural Happy Customers Festival. This was a pretty unique event. We have not seen an event like this where you have one, end-to-end customer journey in one event, a bunch of app partners demoing. A lot of people don't think that folks want to see hands-on demos, but I think we proved that to be true, that people do want to see that. Let us know. We're going to send recordings after. We're going to try to pull out a lot of the things that people demoed into recordings and also written forms of how you can actually go implement those and put those in the Arrows vault. And please go click the logos below and check out all the app partners. We'd love if you just explored it. Go sign up for the Service Hub Success Beta. And Paul, Colette, thank you for joining us.
Thank
We'll
you.
end it here. Yeah. See y'all.